Why did you want to change? What did you change about yourself? And what did you become in the process?
Oh, okay. So start with the first question. What was that one again?
Why did you want to change?
What did I want to change? I'll be honest, John, at the age of 30, 20 years ago, um, I wanted to change everything about myself.
Very good.
I I hadn't achieved a great deal. I felt as though I was someone with a very vivid imagination. So I had big dreams, big goals, big aspirations. But I'll
Okay.
be honest, I was still a little bit both scared, a little bit lacking knowledge and confidence to actually have a go at anything. Um, I think and assume that most of what I had done up until that point had been by luck rather than judgment. And I wanted more control and more certainty. And I wanted to do something significant. I was just a little bit bored of mediocrity and being beige. So that was my reason for changing because I genuinely feared mediocrity. I was sick to death of it. And I think it was genuinely a fear of either succeeding or failing. I was and don't get me wrong, when I say I was afraid, I wasn't sort of this anxious, stressed little bunny in a corner, rocking, clutching my knees, saying why oh why oh why. I was I was just full of ideas and then never took action because I was afraid of failing or succeeding.
I can empathize with that, David, because as you know, I spent many a year working as an accountant. And
Yeah,
in my tenure as an accountant, I often said to myself, what can I do that'll be different to accountancy? I just couldn't find that answer. And it wasn't until I was made compulsory redundant that I was forced to find my purpose. And then I embarked eventually on a journey to become a paid professional speaker and a career coach. Now, when I set out on this journey, I wasn't exactly sure what I needed to do. And that's why I
yeah,
got myself a life coach who's going to guide me on this journey. But what I found is by taking one step at a time, I'm building my capability, my skill set. I'm also building my confidence, and I'm overcoming the fear that I had in my head or mind for many a year before.
right.
So that's what I'm seeing. That's my experience
Mm.
of change.
I when I see people either who want to change career or who have been made redundant, there is a lot of fear, stress, anxiety, whatever you want to call it, going on for them. And quite rightly so, because it's a huge change in someone's life and circumstances. Something where, okay, so to quote a mutual friend of ours in the industry, Nigel Risner,
Mhm.
I'd heard of this before, but I'll be honest, it hadn't really clicked with me until Nigel just put it really simply, which is he said, people don't fear failure. They think they do, but they don't. What they fear is uncertainty.
That's a very, very good point. Well said. And one
Yeah.
thing there, I remember one of my bosses saying one time, I can take bad news, I can take good news, but I cannot take uncertainty.
and this is true. So the likes of you and I see it as our role to give people very simple, very easy to follow steps and processes, ways of thinking and behaving that give them that certainty. Because most people don't need someone pushing them all the time. Sometimes most people, I think, just need someone to say, go on, you can do this. That and this is how. Again, that's the important thing. It's all very easy to say this is what you should do, but that's where many speakers and coaches like ourselves frequently fall down flat because it's superficial to say this is what you should do. Most people go, okay, I can rationalize that. How do I do it? Because when you're full of fear, uncertainty, you tend to procrastinate and you're not big on doing what you need to do because you don't see how to do it, how to think and behave. So I think it's our job to give people both the how as well as the what.
It's a very good point there, David. I agree with you there. There's no point saying to a person, you should be doing A, B, C, D, and F. Show them how to do A first. Let them build their competency in that area, and then you move them on to point B. So don't
100%.
don't try and push
100%.
don't try and push people too far too soon, because the
Yeah.
danger is they will fall over and then they won't get back up because of a lack of confidence, or you have, sucked the energy from them and they feel bad about themselves and they go off in a different direction altogether. You've lost them at that stage. Yeah.
Well, John, I mean, how many people do we know who, as well-intentioned as they are, will start working with somebody who perhaps is in a bad place, and they're very good at opening the can of worms inside that person's head. Tell us about the problem. Tell us about the situation. How did it make you feel? What are the negative consequences of what happened? But then when things get really bad for that person, they're not skilled enough to put the lid back on, or they don't appropriately or professionally refer them to the right people. I always start any work with such people with, the caveat that I promise you at the end of every session, the lid will go back on. And if you've gone somewhere that I am not skilled enough to manage, I know who to refer you to. And I think we're dealing with sometimes some quite strong, courageous people, and sometimes some very vulnerable people. So it's important that we serve our customers properly and not just see them as customers, actually see them as human beings.
Correct. That's a great point there, David. I know what you're saying, because it's very easy to dabble into things, as a coach or a mentor that you're not entirely sure of. And then you take the wrong decision with a client.
Yeah.
They fall over, they've lost their confidence, and then you've lost them as a client to go off and find somebody else, because effectively you've tried to cure the symptoms. Effectively, that's what you're trying to say. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And I can't remember who said it, but there's a great saying, a good coach or mentor will change your life. A bad one will change your life.
Yeah. Sure. Good point. So,
yeah.
having decided why you wanted to change, what did you change about yourself?
Again, I wince there, John, because I'm genuinely not proud of what I'm about to tell you. But in the spirit of honesty, you've always been very candid and open and honest with me. So I think it's only fair I'm the same. I was so hung up on, I don't know how to change. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do it, that I decided to embark upon a little bit of a study, a bit of a research fest to find out how I could change. But because of my experiences when I was young of education, I thought, I can't go back to school, can't go back to college, university. I wouldn't do business qualification. I'm not very good at learning. Fortunately, I had some contacts who knew some brilliant people. And some of my customers at the time, I used to be a chef. I had a catering business and event management. And some of my customers were the who's who of the West Midlands. And I started interviewing really successful people, only to find out how I could become more effective.
Very good.
And change. And people were beginning to tell me how they thought and behaved to make massive impact, create huge change in their life. But I was still too scared to do it myself. I was still of the mindset, well, it's okay for them, but I couldn't do that. I haven't got that confidence. I couldn't succeed big. And one day I was sat very much like we are now, except face to face over a coffee with a client. And this guy was mega successful, John, really successful entrepreneur. And he was such a down to earth, nice guy like yourself. And I said, come on, Phil, tell me, what is it you do? How do you think and behave to go from there to there like that? What is it you do differently to everyone else? And he told me everything. He held nothing back. And a lot of it to me sounded really simple and obvious. But he said, Dave, that's the problem. Everyone dismisses things as simplistic, fluffy, woolly nonsense. And he said, but if I look at my successful friends, they all think and behave the same way. And I thought, wouldn't it be good to find out if a lot of top achievers think the same way? So I started becoming a researcher, interviewing top achievers. They absolutely reinforced that what this guy told me was true. And so I got from them this process of how to go from A to B in a big way and have, most importantly, that certainty and confidence to do it. So I took action, and for the first time, I set and achieved a really, really big goal. In fact, we smashed it out the park and did something quite significant. And ever since then, I have had more confidence and certainty, not only to change and go from A to B and achieve a big thing, but I've also been willing to fail, because I know that I fail, but I am not a failure. And I think the language we use can be critical to how we think and behave, my friend. So some people will say, I can't do that because they perceive themselves as a failure because they haven't achieved. Whereas the truth is, we all fail. I still fail. I'm sure you do. Sure, everybody listening to this and watching this still fails. But the truth is that when we have a little process that we follow diligently, consistently, with certainty, confidence, and conviction, we tend to achieve much better. So we need all of us to find that thing that works for us and be relentless with it. And then you find your way of changing. So for me, it was goal setting. Everybody, John, has been brainwashed to think I should set goals, but it still staggers me to this day when I work with business leaders, chief executive groups. I ask them, show of hands, how many have ever been taught to set goals? Hardly anybody puts their hand up. And then I say, how many of you have got a well planned out, written, drawn out plan for your big goal? Hardly anybody puts their hand up. And these are people running the country. So what chance have we got? So
Yeah, it's a great answer. I know what you're saying there, that you have, smart goals don't work. You have to set massive goals.
yeah,
Follow those goals with conviction, but take one step at a time towards achieving that massive goal. It doesn't happen overnight. It's like the journey of
100%.
1,000 miles starts with one step. You have to take that first step. But after setting that massive goal, you have to be prepared to come right out of your comfort zone and embrace a constructive challenge and develop new skills. That's so important. And look inward at yourself and say, what am I going to do today to achieve that massive goal? And you have to ask yourself that question every day of your life. That's how I see it. And keep focused is so important. I think that's very true. And there's a lot of people in business, they go from crisis to crisis to crisis. Why? Because they haven't set a massive goal for themselves. They don't know what direction they want to take their business or their life in. They're just going from day to day. There's no strategy behind what they're doing. They're always fighting. That's how I see it. And they're the organizations to work in. That's what I've, from experience.
Yeah, and if, as you suggest, they are in a place where they go seemingly just going from crisis to crisis to crisis. What is actually happening at its core, in my experience, most of the time, is that they are not taking control and they're reacting. So life and situations and other people are determining their behaviors and outcomes rather than them taking control of them. And I am sure that there are people out there who go, oh, Dave, you don't know my situation. And there will always be exceptions where that's not true. But in many cases, what we actually need to do is just put our foot on the brake, press pause, evaluate, and then take action and ownership. Whereas, as you say, sometimes if we don't manage it, John, we get sucked into that whirlwind, that almost what a whirlpool, where it brings us down, And all we seem to do is fight fires and be reactionary rather than take control.
Yeah, and I've seen that in business before, where if you have customers who are demanding savings, or you have suppliers who want to increase prices, and you're the middleman as such, so your margin is being, eroded slowly but surely. It's very easy to get into the mindset of conceding too easily to customers, or readily conceding to suppliers to agree price increases, and then they have you in the lap of their hands.
It's true.
It's better to say, I'll take a deep breath here. I'll assess each situation as it is on its own merit, and then I'll work collaboratively with customers to give them what they want. But it has to be a win-win situation. It can't be all compromise which is win-lose. And one of my bones of contention in life, David, I'm going to say it here, and it's not about you, but it's about business people in general.
Right.
How many business people do you hear who confuse the word collaboration with compromise?
Oh, gosh, yes.
That's one of my bones of contention in life.
Yeah, true. It's true.
Yeah. So anyway, moving the conversation along, this has been a great conversation so far. So
I'm enjoying it too.
What did you become in the process of all the change you've undertaken in your life and researching people who have been very successful in business or in sport?
Wow, what did I become? That's a deep one, John. Okay. Okay. What I learned from top achievers, other than how to set goals, is that most of them, most of the time, are very authentic people. They are prepared to do the right thing, which sometimes is harder than doing the wrong thing, and they behave in the right way. And I'll be honest, being a little bit of a coward back then, 25 years ago, I would easily just end up doing the thing I shouldn't be doing rather than the things I should be doing.
Mm-hmm.
And there were situations starting to happen in my life where I was deliberately not doing the right thing and doing the wrong thing. What it has made me, being on this journey of change, is someone who still fails, still screws up occasionally, but most of the time has a very, very positive intent, both for myself and for other people. So it makes me do the right thing. Can I give you a personal example?
You can indeed.
Okay. And I don't think I've shared this on social media or publicly, other than in my talks occasionally before. So you're getting a first there. About 17 years ago, my wife became pregnant. No idea how that happened. And she gave birth to our son. Now, that's one of the best days of our lives. Sadly, childbirth, it crippled my wife. She's disabled. She's in near constant pain and has been for 17 years. Now, that changed our life. In addition to that, our son has got severe special needs and he's quite a handful to deal with. The old me, I promise you, John, was such a coward, I would have run away. It is only by going on the process of change and seeing how by doing the right thing and doing things right that you get better results, that I was able to stick around and be a loving, loyal husband to my wife and be the best dad I'm able to be to my son. And was it hard? Oh, man alive, was it hard? However, doing the right thing has meant that now we're reaping the rewards. You know, my wife to this day is still my absolute best friend. My son, I still adore, despite all the challenges. And I know in myself, I did the right thing. So it has, what has it made me? That is such a cool question. No one's ever asked me that before. It has made me a better person, I think, John. And that sounds incredibly arrogant of me, but I genuinely believe I'm a better person today. You know, 30 years ago, I would have set my speaking, training, and coaching business up purely for my value and benefit. Whereas everything I do now is about service, trying to help and make an impact for other people. And as a result, we do really, really well. So it's like the perfect storm rather than the horrible storm. So sorry, that was a very long and convoluted answer to a great short question. In simple terms, I believe it's made me a better person.
That's a very, very sincere answer, and it takes guts to share a very personal story on social media. That is brave beyond all dimensions, I suppose you could say. And I know what you're saying there, Dave, that you could have decided to play safe and do things right within your own comfort zone. But what you decided to do was really step out of your comfort zone and do the right thing, not just for David Hyner, but for your family and also for your clients and your peer group. And it's great that, you're a long time in the professional speaking business, and what you've achieved is beyond many people's dreams. You're a fellow of the PSA, but not alone that, you have the PSA Award of Excellence because you've been recognized by your peer group as being an outstanding individual in terms of applying good, all the elements of professional speaking business in terms of stage management, presence, your service to customers. You've been an example to other people in the professional speaking business. You are an outstanding person in that regard. That's why you achieved the professional speaking award of excellence, and that
Thank you, John.
by chance. That comes by practice, 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 and going out there and showing people what you can do, and really putting your best foot forward at every possible moment. That's so well done to you for that regard.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, you're most welcome. Do you see yourself as a work in progress still, David, may I ask?
100%. And if you ask my wife, she'll say every day. Yeah, 100%. I mean, there's still 101 things on my to-do list that I think I could be better at. And there are some things that still scare me, frighten me to death, especially spreadsheets and technology. But genuinely, yeah. I mean, it was a real shock to me that I'm from Birmingham in the West Midlands, and we're quite pragmatic. We're quite pragmatic, bullish people by nature, and many of us have a deep skepticism of optimists. So a lot of Brummies will think personal development to be fluffy, woolly nonsense, as I did. I used to dismiss it. And yet here I am, a researcher and a professional speaker in the industry. And what I learned from top achievers is that they are ferociously learning all the time. They are consistently reading, not just any book, but the classics of business and personal development. They are always wanting to take one tiny little thing from everything they read, learn, or experience to make them or their business better. And whilst my customers hire me for my research, I also believe that we should stretch ourselves.
True.
I've been privileged, for example, to have had many adventures. I used to be an endurance trekker. I've trekked over the world, and I've had some fantastic adventures, swum with sharks, and done all sorts of cool stuff. And what many people assume is that I'm an adrenaline junkie, and I'm not. I'm an experience junkie, because that's what I learned from top achievers. They said everyone wants experiences in life, but they're saying that sat in their armchair, eating a pizza, watching daytime TV. He said the only way to get experiences is to have an experience. So get out of the chair, go and sign up for something. So I did, and I signed up for a charity trek along the Great Wall of China, and that one experience started a passion within me for learning about myself. And I don't just mean theoretical learning, systems, processes, biographies, I mean understanding us as ourselves as human beings, understanding other people, behavioral understanding. And I think anyone who is too arrogant to say, oh, I don't need to learn, I'm already great at what I do. Wow, really? Is there anyone who knows everything? So yeah, work in progress, 100%.
I'd be your exact opposite in terms of spreadsheets. I used to be a spreadsheet junkie, of course, during my career as an accountant. But what I've got to work on is getting out there. I spent the last 2 years, building up my intellectual property within my professional speaking and career coaching business. Now, what I need to do is to get out there and start having conversations with people in the community and get to know what they're thinking, what issues they have in their life, what
Yeah.
interests them, and then to try and have a coffee with them to try and use that conversation to make them aware of the services that I'm offering, because you never know who's in their network and these people's networks. I have to open doors for myself, and that's what I'm going to be working on for the next couple of years. It's a challenge for me, but I'm up for the challenge. That's most important of all, is to, you know, be ready to take that challenge on every day, and to, there might be days I might fail, but that doesn't make me a failure. You learn
Mm.
from failing, and you go back the next time and you do better and better again. So what I've learned the last couple of years is have an open mindset. That book by Carol Dweck around mindset, which he talked about, the failure mindset and the success mindset, really opened my eyes. Just because you failed an exam doesn't make you a failure. Perhaps you weren't well prepared on the day. You go back and prepare better next time around, and then you pass the exam. That's what life is all about, is don't take failure to heart. See it as a learning, not an end point.
Well, you also said something else very good there at the beginning, which was around now I need to change and I need to start doing more reaching out to potential customers and other experts. And so, on this subject of change, many people, I'm sure, will assume you meant massive change in your personal or your business life. Whereas actually, the best thing any of us can do, and this loops back brilliantly to what we both agreed on at the beginning, is sometimes it's those tiny little incremental changes that it's like what do they call it? Like throwing a stone in the pond. The ripple effect causes the tsunami.
Of
Because
course.
if you, instead of not reaching out to people, make that one little change, and with the right intent and with enthusiasm, do 5 to 10 reach outs every single day that you're in the office, compounded over time, that can only have a massive positive impact. And it's these tiny little changes we all can make that can sometimes create the biggest outcomes.
I know what you're saying there, that the ripple effect takes time, but over time it builds momentum. And that's how you grow a business and grow your own
Yeah.
tribe, is to get out there and have conversations with people, but don't try and force the conversation. It's more important to be an active listener. Listen to these people. What are their issues? What are their concerns? And how can you help them? If you can't help them, by all means, refer them to another person in your network. That's genuine. As you said earlier on, don't try and double in things that you're not qualified or experienced to work on, or to help people with. That's that's a grave danger. This has been a tremendous conversation today, Dave.
Yeah, I've loved it.
This conversation today is, first of all, be sincere with people. Don't try
Hmm.
to do things with people that you're not capable of doing or helping them with. If you're capable of helping people to solve a problem, by all means do that, but know your limits. Secondly, don't see yourself as a failure. If you fail at an exam or in trying to get business, learn from that experience, adapt your skill set, and do better the next time. Thirdly, don't be afraid to come out of your comfort zone and set massive goals. That's the only way you're going
Yeah.
to achieve big goals in life. Smart goals tend to be too safe, so set massive goals. Don't try and put in place elaborate processes, because you're only going to cause confusion in your own mind. Keep things simple.
Yeah.
Have simple systems around you that allow you to flourish as a person, not just as a professional speaker or coach, but as an individual in your own right. And put your best foot forward every day. Is there anything else you'd like to say before I let you go?
It starts whenever you want to start. Um, a lot of people will beat themselves up over long periods of time for not taking action in their life or their business. my advice to you is the advice to most people, I would say, would be the advice of a very, very old friend of mine who sadly passed away, and he was the drummer in a very, very successful rock band, world famous rock band.
Very
and
good.
and his advice was, when will be a good day to start taking part in your life?
Today, now.
Now, change now. What's the point of waiting?
And on that note, David, I'll bring today's conversation to a close. Thank you.
Great stuff.